super touring revolution has swept through world motorsport. Now rivaling Formula One in popularity, super touring racing has in just 3 seasons emerged as the premier formula in South Africa and continues to go from strength to strength. Fierce competition between manufacturers and drivers and non-stop action on the circuit are ingredients that make super touring a worldwide phenomenon. The 1995 AA Fleetcare Super Touring Championship got underway at AA Kyalami, with some new faces among the drivers, new cars and a new sponsor. Among the new faces were veteran Cyril van der Merwe and Ben Morgenrud, who were out in the Sasol-backed Ford Mondeos. It was Ford's first appearance in the South African Championship. Also making their super touring debuts were South African saloon car champion Janil de Villiers, who replaced Hannes Grobler in the BP Nissan team, and German driver Sabine Reck in the Motorplan BMW. The Rothmans Audi team fielded a pair of Audi Quattro 80s for Terry Moss and Chris Aberdeen, with Mike Briggs and Grant McCleary out in the new Opel Vectras, which replaced the highly successful Opel Astras. Out on the circuit, the die was soon cast. The Opel racing pair of Mike Briggs, the 1993 champion and runner-up in 1994, and Grant McCleary dominated both rounds. Round 1 saw Briggs and McCleary take the first 2 places, with the rest of the opposition fighting over the scraps. A determined drive saw BMW Envirocar star Dion Joubert into 3rd place. Opel and BMW have dominated super touring racing in South Africa since its inception, with the battle lines already drawn between the Opel and BMW teams. For the Sasol Ford Mondeo team, the entry into super touring racing was a baptism by fire. Controversy was also quick to strike where Cyril van der Merwe was concerned. Round 2 of the championship was virtually a replica of round 1, with Briggs and McCleary getting the season off to a great start for Opel Racing with another 1-2. Once again, a determined Joubert carried the BMW flag to come home 3rd behind the Opel pair. Nick de Waal and Terry Moss scored Nissan and Audi's first AA Fleetcare points. The opening skirmishes in the Class B Championship went the way of Cape Town driver Kosi Swanepoel in the BMW 325. Swanepoel won both in comfortable fashion and had got his challenge off to a good start. A good start to the AA Fleetcare Championship for Mike Briggs in Class A and Kosi Swanepoel in Class B, with both drivers going away from AA Kyalami with maximum points. Rounds 3 and 4 of the championship moved to the Kalani circuit in Cape Town, with double FIA World Cup champion Paul Radisich making his South African debut. Radisich replaced Ben Morgenrud and set pole position ahead of Mike Briggs in the Opel Racing Vectra. Radisich came in 2nd behind Mike Briggs to score the Sasol Ford team's first AA Fleetcare Championship points. Grant McCleary finished 3rd with an impressive performance from Janil de Villiers, who came in 4th in the BP Nissan Sentra. New Zealander Paul Radisich and Janil de Villiers were again giving Mike Briggs problems in round 4 when the Sasol Ford seized, with de Villiers having to take evasive action. Damage suffered in the incident later saw de Villiers make a spectacular exit from the race, with teammate Nick de Waal finishing a strong 2nd ahead of Terry Moss in 3rd in the Rothmans Audi Quattro. For Briggs, it was 4 wins in a row and a great start to the season. The Class B Championship once again saw Kosi Swanepoel, this time on home turf, take a double victory. This time around, Swanepoel was made to fight all the way by South African drivers' champion Duncan Vos, who had switched from single-seaters to saloon cars. The AA Fleetcare party continued for Mike Briggs and Kosi Swanepoel, with both drivers scoring maximum points in the first 4 rounds. The Mike Briggs Opel Vectra hold on the championship suffered a setback in round 5 at the Aldo Scribanti circuit in Port Elizabeth. On his home circuit, Briggs was caught napping on the start line, and the BMW Enviro cars of Dion Joubert and Sean van der Linde got ahead of the Opel into the first corner. For the rest of the race, it was a case of Sean van der Linde riding shotgun for race leader Dion Joubert, with a frustrated Mike Briggs unable to find a way past either BMW. For Dion Joubert, the traditional bubbly celebration provided a moment to savour. Mike Briggs had never won a super touring race in front of his home crowd in Port Elizabeth, but was to finally set the record straight in round 6 of the AA Fleetcare series. Briggs was again beaten to the first corner, but this time he was not to be denied. After forcing his way ahead of Dion Joubert in the BMW Enviro car, a fired-up Briggs gradually pulled away to open up a 3-second gap over Joubert and reigning super touring champion Sean van der Linde. For New Zealander Paul Radisich, his final South African appearance ended in retirement, with Mike White in the Minolta Toyota Camry and Chris Aberdeen in the Rothmans Audi Quattro scoring their first points of the season. In the Class B Championship, Cape Townian Kersey Swanepoel was again the dominant force in a BMW 325. The son of the legendary Kersey Swanepoel, who thrilled crowds in yesteryear, Swanepoel Jr. was proving to be a chip off the old block. The Aldo Scrivanti outing saw Swanepoel chalk up his 6th win of the season. Duncan Foss in the Accord Nissan Sentra was emerging as Swanepoel's biggest threat. After 6 rounds of the championship, Mike Briggs and the unbeaten Kersey Swanepoel in Class B continued to dominate the AA Fleetcare Series. The AA Fleetcare Series made its second trip to the AA Kyalami Grand Prix circuit in March, with Mike Briggs and teammate Grant McCleary quickly restoring the early season status quo. Round 7 saw the Opel Vectra pair chalk up another 1-2. Sean van der Linde fought out a terrific battle with Terry Moss to take 3rd. Further down the field, Anthony Taylor in the Castrol Toyota Camry was in trouble with race officials after some robust driving and was excluded from the results after clashes with Nick de Vol and Chris Aberdeen. In a tremendous debut for the Cecil Ford team, Steve Wyndham, replacing Ben Morgenrud in the squad, came in 4th to make an immediate impact on the series. Anthony Taylor's Castrol Toyota Camry bore the battle scars that helped make super touring racing the spectacle that it is. When a high-felt thunderstorm hit AA Kyalami, it signaled drama in round 8. In trouble early on in the race was Sean van der Linde in the BMW Enviro car and German driver Sabine Reck in the Motorplan BMW, who ended their race in the gravel trap at the AA Bowl. More drama was to follow when Mike Briggs slid off the circuit in spectacular fashion at the total curves. Briggs was shaken but unhurt, with the Opel severely damaged. With the slippery circuit playing into the hands of the 4-wheel drive Rothmans Audis, a magnificent battle developed between Terry Moss and wet weather expert Cyril van der Merwe in the Cecil Ford Mondeo. Moss finally got the better of 11 times former South African rally champion to score a maiden win for the Rothmans Audi team. The Kyalami outing saw Kersey Swanepoel lose his unbeaten record in round 7. The rapidly improving Hein Latteren gave the Steve's Auto Clinic motor-built team a maiden win in the VW Jetta, with Duncan Foss again in 2nd place. Swanepoel restored the balance of power in round 8 with his 7th win of the season, with Latteren completing a successful day by taking 2nd place in unpleasant conditions. The status quo at the top of the Class A and Class B championships remained unchanged after round 8, with Mike Briggs and Kersey Swanepoel still in control. When the AA Fleetcare Series made its lone trip to the Swartkop circuit outside Pretoria for rounds 9 and 10 of the championship, qualifying was disrupted by heavy rain. Race day was cold and overcast, but the rain stayed away, with Mike Briggs back on top in the Opel Vectra after his Kyalami crash. The surprise package of round 9 was Mike White in the Minolta Toyota Camry, who ran into his best form of the season to finish 2nd to Briggs. A terrific battle between Grant McCleary in the 2nd Opel Vectra and Anthony Taylor in the Castrol Toyota Camry was often a robust affair that earned the pair a talking to from clerk of the course, Glenn Rowden. Another win for Briggs in round 9, and it did not take long for drama to hit round 10. Reigning champion Sean van der Linde was tucked in behind Nick de Vol in the BP Nissan Sentra going into Bosel Sweep. There was contact between the 2 cars, with van der Linde's BMW Enviro car catapulted off the circuit. There were also problems for Mike White, who slid off the circuit in the Minolta Toyota Camry at the Continental Complex. A worried-looking clerk of the course, Glenn Rowden, had the red flag out to stop the race after van der Linde's horrific accident. There was superb work from cameraman Nicky Atmore, with a shaken and bruised van der Linde lucky to escape unhurt from an incident that totally destroyed the BMW. When the race was restarted, Mike Briggs set about protecting Opel Racing's unbeaten record at Swartkops and cruised to his 8th win of the season. Behind Briggs, another terrific battle developed between Anthony Taylor and Grant McCleary, with the Castrol Toyota this time getting the better of the Opel Vectra. Swartkop saw the Class B debut of Bankfin Toyota Sprinter driven by Leon Marie. The unfortunate Marie's debut lasted less than 200 metres after coming together with Hein Lattergen and Duncan Vos. Lattergen's Jetta and Marie's Toyota were catapulted off the circuit, with both drivers escaping serious injury. With championship leader Kersey Swanepoel blotting his copybook when he ran off the circuit at the entrance to the Continental Corner Complex, Duncan Vos scored his first win of the season in the Accord Nissan Sentra. Kersey Swanepoel and the BMW 325 were back in the winner's circle in round 10. Nursing a sore back, Leon Marie gave the Bankfin Toyota team its first points, while Duncan Vos's race ended in retirement. In the driver's points, the Opel pair of Briggs and McCleary comfortably led Class A, with Swanepoel setting the pace in Class B. It was back to Killarney for rounds 11 and 12 of the series, with the fairest cape of them all serving up atrocious weather. The worst the elements could offer served only to add to the drama. It started in the pre-race practice sessions with a controversial incident between Mike White and Sabina Reck, leaving the pretty German blonde with a broken leg and out of action for 6 weeks. Race day saw the drama continue, and at the first corner, championship leader Mike Briggs tangled with Chris Aberdeen in the Rothmans Audi Quattro in an incident that was later to have repercussions. On lap 2, there was a huge accident when Anthony Taylor and Nick Duval touched at high speed on the pit straight, with the Castrol Toyota Camry slamming into the retaining wall on the other side of the circuit. Mike White chased after race leader Mike Briggs while Chris Aberdeen was fighting his way back through the field. A terrific battle had also developed between Steve Windham in the Sassel Ford Mondeo and Dion Joubert in the BMW Enviro car. Both learned their racing at Killarney, with the battle ending on the final corner when Joubert punted Windham off the circuit. For their indiscretions, both Briggs and Joubert were penalised 30 seconds by the clerk of the course, with victory going to Mike White in the Minolta Toyota Camry ahead of Aberdeen's Audi and Windham's Ford Mondeo. It didn't seem possible, but conditions deteriorated for round 12. With the rain teeming down, the drivers took their lives in their hands in gathering gloom. An unhappy day for the BMW Enviro car team saw both Dion Joubert and Sean van der Linde out of action at the first corner. Anthony Taylor was an early retirement in the Castrol Camry, shortly to be followed by Grant McCleary in the second Opel Vectra. As though stung by his round 11 trials and tribulations, Mike Briggs produced a masterful display of wet weather driving to gradually pull away from Terry Moss in the Rothmans Audi. Behind the pair, the two Sassel Mondeos of Steve Windham and Sarel van der Merwe took third and fourth, after Supervan survived a big moment when he thumped the pit wall. For Mike White, the weekend ended on a sour note. Already fined for his role in the wreck incident, White was penalised 30 seconds for jumping the start and was relegated to 5th place. For Briggs, round 12 produced win number 10.
The car was brilliant. You know, to dispel any rumours that our cars weren't good in the wet, I really thought I'd put in a good charge. And I quite love the wet. You know, it's quite ironic that the two Port Elizabeth boys, we're used to having drought down there, but when we get the wet, we really enjoy these conditions.
Round 11 of the Class B Championship produced a runaway win for Hein Lattergen in the SAC motor-built VW Jetta. The former single-seater double national champion took the win by nearly half a minute ahead of Duncan Vos in the Accord Nissan Sentra. A good run by Leon Marie suddenly ended when the Bankfin Toyota Sprinter rolled to a stop, and Kersey Swanepoel moved into 3rd place ahead of Nico van Rensburg. While there was no stopping Lattergen in round 11, Leon Marie bounced back in round 12. In the atrocious conditions, the fighter pilot turned airline pilot gave the Bankfin Toyota team a maiden win in only its 4th race. A super drive put Marie into 6th place overall, with Duncan Vos cementing his 2nd place in the championship by finishing ahead of round 11 winner Hein Lattergen. With Briggs a runaway leader of the Class A Championship, the position behind him was starting to look interesting, with Terry Moss and Dion Joubert closing the gap on Grant McCleary. Famous East London Grand Prix circuit has never been a happy hunting ground for Mike Briggs. The hoodoo the circuit has over Briggs cropped up again in round 13 of the AA Fleetcare series. Briggs was left at the start and, in a desperate attempt to make up ground, was a little over-enthusiastic and slid off the circuit at Cox Corner. That left teammate Grant McCleary to fight out a lone battle with the BMW Enviro car pair of Dion Joubert and Sean van der Linde. After van der Linde's Swartkop's crash and a miserable outing in Cape Town, the BMW team showed plenty of fighting spirit, with Joubert hounding McCleary throughout the 12 laps. McCleary was not to be denied his first win of the season, and behind the two BMWs, a controlled drive by Anthony Taylor saw the Castrol Toyota Camry home ahead of the Sassel Ford Mondeos of Cyril van der Merwe and Steve Wyndham. A happy pair of BMW drivers were back in the groove, but for Grant McCleary, his first win of the season was an emotional moment.
It was great. Just led from start to finish. I got a magic start, and you know, it's very difficult to lead. Normally Briggsy does all the leading, so I had a lot of pressure. Sean and Dion came on strong towards the end of the race, and I'm overwhelmed. It's fantastic for me and for the team.
Championship leader Mike Briggs went to East London with a chance of wrapping up the AA Fleetcare Championship, but after his first race crash, the racing gods once again frowned on him. Early in round 14, Briggs was involved in a controversial incident with Nick de Waal in the BP Nissan Sentra at Cox Corner. While Briggs fought his way back to second place, the results of the race were declared provisional until race officials had looked at the television replays of the incident between Briggs and de Waal. The BMW Envirocar fightback continued, with Dion Joubert taking his second win of the season by a comfortable margin from Briggs. Late in the race, Briggs clinched 6 more points and moved closer to the AA Fleetcare title when he relegated Sean van der Linde to third in the second BMW. With the champagne celebrations in full swing, a delighted Dion Joubert was back in the winner's circle for the first time since round 5 of the championship in Port Elizabeth. The East London outing provided former South African drivers' champion Duncan Vos with his best return of the season. With the Accord Nissan Sentra starting to show signs of reliability, Vos scored a double at East London to make inroads into Kersey Swanepoel's championship lead. Championship leader Swanepoel ran into gearbox problems, but finished second to Vos in both races, with Hein Latteren taking a pair of third places in the SAC motor-built VW Jetta. After East London, Mike Briggs was within a point or two of clinching the Class A championship, with Kersey Swanepoel now under pressure from Duncan Vos in Class B. With the South African Touring Car Association ratifying the results of round 14 in East London, champion-elect Mike Briggs again went into round 15 at AA Kyalami with a chance of wrapping up the AA Fleetcare Super Touring Championship. For the first time in South Africa, the Super Touring Series adopted separate qualifying sessions for the 2 races, with the system widely supported. When racing got underway in round 15, Mike Briggs was intent on putting the championship issue beyond doubt. Early in the race, Mike White in the Minolta Toyota Camry tangled with Chris Aberdeen in the Rothmans Audi Quattro. The incident earned White a fine from Super Touring clerk of the course, Steve Harding. At the front of the field, Mike Briggs led from Dion Joubert when the championship leader's hopes of wrapping up the series went out the window. Briggs hit oil at the bottom of the Caltex mineshaft, and a 200-kilometre-an-hour spin ended up in the tyre barriers at the AA Bowl. In a heart-stopping moment, the stationary Briggs was almost hit by Janil de Villiers. With Briggs out of the race, there was a terrific battle up front between Dion Joubert and Grant McCleary. In what turned out to be a terrific finish, the BMW driver just held on for his 3rd win of the season. Briggs was back on the grid for round 16, with Janil de Villiers a first corner casualty in the BP Nissan Sentra after a clash with Cyril van der Merwe in the Sassel Ford Mondeo. With Mike Briggs starting to dominate at the front of the field, Mike White found himself embroiled in more drama when he and Nick de Waal made contact. The incident put both the Minolta Toyota Camry and the BP Nissan Sentra out of the race. Up front, Sean van der Linde was having his best outing for some time, but could not make any impression on Mike Briggs, who took another step towards clinching the championship. Grant McCleary was a comfortable 3rd ahead of Dion Joubert, with Anthony Taylor and Steve Wyndham also in the points. For Briggs, early disappointment was superseded by his 10th win of the season, with the title in his grasp.
Yeah, you know, as we said the first time around, that it can work for you and work against you. This time it certainly suited me, having the 2 qualifying sessions. And I think overall it's better for everybody because it's fairer. That's why you don't have really quick cars stuck at the back of the grid for some strange reason. So yes, the gods didn't shine kindly on me in the first race today, but good to come through and win the second.
The Class B championship race started to look interesting after the AA Kyle Army outing, with Duncan Foss starting to close in on early championship leader Kersey Swanepoel. Foss and the Accord Nissan Sentra picked up their second double in as many meetings. In round 15, Foss came in ahead of Hein Luttigan and Leon Marie, with Swanepoel fourth after a terrific tussle with the VW Jetta and the Toyota Sprinter. Round 16 saw Swanepoel back to something like his best form, but second place ahead of Leon Marie in the Bankfin Toyota Sprinter saw the young Cape Townian lose more ground to Duncan Foss in the championship race. While Mike Briggs was virtually assured of the Class A title, only 7 points now separated Kersey Swanepoel and Duncan Foss after 16 rounds of the AA Fleetcare Series. A good battle was also developing in Class A between Grant McCleary and Dion Joubert. Back at East London for rounds 18 and 19 of the championship. It looked as though the Mike Briggs hoodoo would strike again. Needing just 3 points from round 17 to win the AA Fleetcare title, Briggs was involved in controversy when he went off in practice and did not post a time within 110% of Dion Joubert's pole position. The stewards of the meeting insisted that Briggs not be allowed to start. Super Touring clerk of the course Steve Harding finally found a loophole that enabled Briggs to take his place on the grid. There was more drama when Anthony Taylor went farming at around 230 kilometers an hour at Rifle Range Bend. It was a huge roller coaster ride for Taylor across the infield, with serious damage only to the car. Dion Joubert drove an impeccable race to grab his fourth win of the season, but second place was enough to clinch the 1995 AA Fleetcare Super Touring Championship for Mike Briggs.
At last, it's taken so long to get here. And ironically, it was here last year in East London that we lost the number one. And I suppose it's just the right thing to do to come back to East London and finally take it back. It was a difficult race because I was tempted to challenge for the lead, but I guess Dion's a little bit too clever for that, and I had the championship at stake and I couldn't risk any offs. So I'm just so pleased to have finally wrapped up the championship. I can go back to enjoying my races now.
Regular AA Fleetcare Super Touring followers were getting used to first lap incidents, and round 18 followed the trend. This time it was German driver Sabine Reck who was at the centre of first lap mayhem at Cocobana Corner, and clerk of the course Steve Harding brought out the red flag to stop the race. Terry Moss was out of the restart when the Rothmans Audi was wheeled away from the grid. Miss Reck was fined 1,200 Rand by Steve Harding for precipitating the Cocobana crash and was soon to be joined by new champion Briggs. After a confrontation with Steve Wyndham's Sassel Ford Mondeo at the S's and Cox Corner, Briggs was fined 2,000 Rand by Harding and finished out of the points. After finally wrapping up his second Super Touring Championship in 3 years, the East London hoodoo had again caught up with Briggs. Clerk of the course Steve Harding took a dim view of the incident with Briggs out of pocket. While the new champion managed to get the Opel Vectra mobile once more, it was the end of the road for the Sassel Ford Mondeo, with Steve Wyndham soon bringing the battle-scarred Mondeo into the pits. At the front of the field, a marvellous battle had developed between race leader Dion Joubert and Grant McCleary. Joubert held on by a whisker for his 5th win of the year, with BMW winning a couple of battles on the day but losing the war. Third place in round 18 went to British driver Julian Bailey in the Minolta Toyota Camry. The former Grand Prix star replaced Mike White, who was serving a 2-race suspension after the Cape Town incident with Sabine Reck. The East London outing also saw the Class B situation turned upside down. Duncan Foss won both rounds in the Accord Nissan Sentra to move ahead of Kersey Swanepoel in the championship stakes. In round 18, Foss fought out a superb battle with Leon Marie in the Bankfin Toyota Sprinter, with the pair tied together throughout the race. In a disappointing outing, Kersey Swanepoel managed a 5th in round 18 to relinquish his championship lead. Foss and Marie were at it again in round 19, with the pair producing another thrilling battle. It was close racing at its best, with Foss scoring his 4th win in a row. With a did not finish in round 19, the season had taken a nasty turn for Kersey Swanepoel. Briggs had wrapped up the overall championship, but Foss was now 9 points ahead of Swanepoel in Class B, with just 2 points between McCleary and Joubert in Class A. champion Mike Briggs was missing from the penultimate round of the AA Fleetcare Series at AA Kyalami. Briggs joined the Vauxhall Works team in the British Touring Car Championship as a stand-in for the injured James Thompson and was replaced at Kyalami by Opel Racing's Stanek Group N star Sean Watson-Smith. The Port Elizabeth driver was an immediate sensation, but was given a baptism by fire by the BMW Envirocar pair of Sean van der Linde and Dion Joubert. Then what looked like developing into the race of the season took a tragic turn. With the midfield pack in full flight to stay with the race leaders, Sean van der Linde spun at the Rothmans S's when the BMW Envirocar hit engine coolant dropped by a Class B car on the previous lap. Van der Linde was T-boned by Sarel van der Merwe in the Sassel Ford Mondeo. The race was stopped with both drivers treated for minor injuries at the circuit hospital. After the restart, it didn't take Watson-Smith long to get past Dion Joubert in the lone surviving BMW Envirocar, taking teammate Grant McCleary with him. With Joubert and McCleary involved in a terrific battle for second place in the championship, the final lap produced a sensation. Watson-Smith slowed coming out of the final corner, allowing McCleary to take the win with the AA Fleetcare newcomer second, to deny Joubert an extra 2 championship points. After his sensational round 19 debut in the Super Touring Championship, Sean Watson-Smith went one better in round 20. Amply demonstrating the depth of talent in South African motor racing, Watson-Smith was soon locked in battle with Dion Joubert in the BMW Envirocar. Behind them, Grant McCleary, from 7th place on the grid, was picking his way through the field and worked his way through to 3rd place after a good battle with Terry Moss in the Rothmans Audi Quattro. A marvellous battle between Watson-Smith and Joubert finally went Watson-Smith's way. And this time he was not in the mood for any last corner fun and games. The young stand-in for champion Mike Briggs completed a fairy tale win.
I really can't believe it, you know. At the beginning of the week, you know, I knew I had this opportunity. I was so nervous and all that, because you always have these doubts. Will I be able to be on the pace and that type of thing, you know. And I was under a lot of pressure because I got a lot of friends who said to me, you know, they believe in me and I can do it and this type of thing, you know, and you always dream of winning, but I didn't really think it was possible, you know, and I was under so much pressure from all of them to perform. There's so many people who said, we're sure you can do it, you know, but it just had a fantastic fairy tale ending. I can't believe it. I must say thanks to the team, you know. Opel built a fantastic motor car. It was absolutely brilliant. You know, you can't do it without good equipment, you have to realize that. And the car was absolutely fantastic.
With the Class B Championship also moving towards an exciting climax, Duncan Foss grabbed his 7th win of the season in round 19. He was aided and abetted by a first-lap tangle between the Class B contingent that sidelined Hein Lattergan in the SAC motor-built Jetta. Voss in the Nissan Sentra Accord again fought a stirring battle with Leon Marie's Bankfin Toyota Sprinter. Round 20 produced a magnificent battle between Voss, Marie and Lattergan, who was back in the fray. For lap after lap, the trio battled for the lead, with Voss the first to drop away with a gearbox problem. Lattergan and Marie continued a stirring personal duel, with the Jetta just edging ahead at the finish. Voss held on to finish 3rd, and with another non-finish from Kosi Swanepoel, was virtually assured of the Class B title. With 2 rounds of the AA Fleetcare Super Touring Championship left to run, Grant McCleary led Dion Joubert by just 1 point in the battle to finish second behind Briggs in Class A. Duncan Foss needed just 4 points for the Class B title. The finale of the 1995 AA Fleetcare Super Touring Car Championship was run at AA Kyalami with 2 major issues to be settled. The first was the battle between Dion Joubert and Grant McCleary to see who finished runner-up to Mike Briggs in the championship. For champion Mike Briggs, there was a sad end to the season. Going into the first corner, Briggs was caught up in a situation with Sean van der Linde and Dion Joubert where someone had to be the loser. Briggs ended his season up against the safety barriers, with van der Linde retiring at the next corner. Joubert finally put beyond doubt who would finish second in the championship when he fought off a spirited challenge from McCleary to take his 7th win of the season. Chris Aberdeen picked up his best result of the season in the Rothmans Audi Quattro to finish 3rd behind Joubert and McCleary. 2 close Class B heats were shared by Hein Lattergan and Leon Marie, but non-finishes in both heats for Duncan Foss and Cozy Swanepoel provided for a tame end to their championship battle. With neither driver scoring a point, the status quo remained unchanged, with Foss's late-season charge carrying him to the Class B championship. Mike Briggs dominated the 1995 AA Fleetcare Super Touring Championship throughout the season, with the battle between Dion Joubert and Grant McCleary providing the late-season interest. Sean van der Linde finished just 1 point ahead of Terry Moss, with Anthony Taylor completing the top 5 in the drivers' standings. Duncan Foss's late-season rally took him to the Class B title ahead of Cozy Swanepoel, the consistent Hein Lattergan and Leon Marie. As was to be expected, Opel and BMW dominated the Manufacturers' Championship. Opel ended with a comfortable winning margin over BMW. Toyota were 3rd, followed by Audi, Ford and Nissan.